Hi, I'm Julie, and welcome to Being Autonomously Healthy with Maia Movement. So, I help individuals who feel let down by mainstream and alternative medicine go from a place of frustration and pain to experiencing autonomous health. I've done this myself. I had no other options left, and it's not easy, but you can transform exhaustion into effortless strength and balanced energy, all powered by your own unique breath. And you get to a place through that adventure where you live without fear of anything. So today's episode is looking at the nervous system, the response of the nervous system, the fight, flight, stress response of the nervous system. And I use a mountain biking example of my own for what that's actually doing. It gets a bit real in the fact that we are so far from naturally functioning, and nobody has been in this state of true physical nervous system health. Nobody that I've seen or met or listened to online understands what this is. We are all in a state where everything we do takes us further into the fight-flight response, but it gives us a hit of the hormones and chemicals which make us feel better. And yes, I'm doing air quotes around that. And they give us a high, and they numb us, and they give us pain killing, and they give us these incredible energy hits and releases that we think is improving us. So this is going to explain how that's
Let's
not.
talk about how the nervous system
I'll finish up the intro with saying
functions.
The nervous system is very
integrated
very quick
with the rest of your body because there's no
activate.
separation. So you can go out and you can study and you can learn all about the nervous system, the different pathways, and the different plexuses and the different
we don't even know that we're doing
chemicals and hormones.
It is very slow.
Why does it integrate, and how does it integrate with
about safety in your
the physical body, the emotional body, mental body, and spiritual body? This is the
I want to
cause, but
remind
this
you
is
that you can't
what
feel,
people are lacking, and this is
and you have probably
why
never felt what it
people
is
are
to
always
be in
looking
the
for
nervous
something
system
new. One of the things that I've experienced over the last couple of years is this just
when I first
blocking
started
of me by clients because it's not working. And the interesting thing is that
I wasn't feeling
those clients are not taking it into their everyday life. I know they're not. They tell me they're not. They come to the session, they have a massage, and then they go away and they carry on doing exactly what they've always done. Wearing the same shoes, sitting in the same way, cocooning themselves away from the world.
There's no blame in this or judgment in this. I understand.
They keep doing exactly what they've always done, and then they come back and they have a session. And the interesting thing is when they have a session, they do it all themselves.
And I understand
they find their comfort, they find the understanding, and as soon as they walk out the door, it's gone. Now, here's where the nervous system is really, really cool. And it's about the physical body.
I'm in the car, sorry, when I'm driving.
Else.
It's nice and easy.
And this is what keeps us anchored back, and
so you've just
the body dysfunctioning, the mind dysfunctioning, as we judge it, and the emotions being unacceptable. So
enjoy.
The story I'm going to share
you want to go through this,
and it's around mountain biking. So I love mountain biking. I haven't done it for years. I'm not like a pro at all. I just like popping around the sweet little trails and having a great time. But I was in a group, and we'd sometimes go out and ride for like a couple of hours in the morning before we'd go to a cafe for coffee and breakfast.
What I'm talking about.
So one morning I went out, and it was just me and another girl, and I hadn't been out for a while, and I've been doing all of this stuff and changing how I walked and really sinking into what I do with Maia Movement, which is
it's easy to learn something
moving in a way that my nervous system stays at the rest energy flow, and that my breath is moving through my body freely. So it's like a balloon being blown up and emptied. My whole body is getting that more than it used to, and there's still some areas which would be limited and have no breath, but compared to where I started 10-15 years ago, my breath can now be felt all through my body, and key here is that I don't push it there, I don't make it go there, I don't count it, I don't do anything. I just tune my observation to that tiny patch of skin, and I can feel the breath movement. That's the answer, but there really is no answer, because the nervous system, muscle system, bones, they're all fully integrated, and we really have to stop separating them if we want health freedom. So I went out mountain biking, and we used to go on an empty stomach because we go early in the morning. It's Queensland, it gets a bit hot too early, and so we were riding around, nothing like extreme, popping around like I said, having a great time, having to stop here and there, no worries. And then all of a sudden I started feeling like wobbly and exhausted, and oh my god, I'm so hungry, and I wish we were at the cafe already. And that's a common state for me to be in. I'm always hungry, but this was due to the mountain biking. Anyway, we were out the back of the trails. We weren't going to get to a cafe, so obviously had to keep going. And then there was this wash over me, this kind of cool wash, and I got all these goosebumps, and then the hunger went away, and I got this massive energy surge, and I was away. I was good to go. And so we probably spent another half hour to 45 minutes riding, and before heading off to the cafe, where I stopped and ate breakfast. That ride left me in agony. So I went and had breakfast, rode home, not a problem. The next few days I was in agony, like really sore muscles. I couldn't bend my knees freely. I was just aching like I'd done a really strenuous workout. The knees bending is what I'm going to focus on. So I was in a high-set house, and I had to walk up and down stairs, which was just brutal for a couple of days. You've all been there. And so because I was feeling like this, I thought, well, I know how to recover, so I'll get down on the ground into the supported rest positions, and I'll spend some time there gently moving my joints through the range of motion that they've got at the moment and feeling for my breath. Here's where it got interesting. When I turned my attention to my knees, I could not feel my breath moving through my knees. And that surprised me, because when I started, obviously I could not feel my breath moving through my knees, and I'd been doing this for about 8 years at this stage. And so I'm lying on the ground, I'm thinking, but I could feel the breath like a week ago, like it was there and it was moving. And what it feels like is fluids being pushed between the bones of your thigh bone and your shin bones, so in between the leg bones at the knee cap being lifted off the ends or away from the joint space, and the back of the knee softly plumping. So I liken it to like a tidal swell, or the other thing I really like to use is when you see a animal balloon being blown up, I liken it to that. So when the inhale moves through the knee, it's like the skin expands, and then that fullness moves through the knee, and it's fluid, so it catches the space between the bones and just make all your soft tissues fluid. So don't say, oh, but the ligaments would stop that. No, they don't. All of the soft tissues are fluid, every single one of them. The bones are harder. Everything inside your skin that is not bone is a soft tissue, and it's fluid, and they're not separate from each other fully. They integrate with each other via pressure, like if you're putting two water balloons together and pushing them together, the pressure acts on the other one. Or just think of it like fluid, all of it like fluid. Okay, so I had got to a state where my nervous system was at rest. I had freedom of movement in my knees, like my range of motion in my knees had increased significantly, and then this bike ride shut all that down. which obviously hurt, because just like when you sit on your leg, like you cross your legs and sit on them, or you sleep on your arm and you cut off circulation, that's a bit uncomfortable, isn't it, really? Yeah. So it took me, I think, nearly a week before I started feeling my breath move through the bones of my knees again. So when people talk about regulating nervous system and shifting the state of the nervous system, that's how long it took. Okay, so my nervous system had been at rest in the energy flow of the parasympathetic, the rest, digest and heal, and I was able to move through my days in that state, floating into the fight, flight, survival if it was needed, driving a car, or walking on the streets, or dealing with angry people. The nervous system should flow freely between each of these and energize us and posture us to deal with the situation at hand. So I'd been like that for a while, and I was in that state more so than, like in the parasympathetic, rest, digest, heal, more so than the other state, which is very unusual. Not at all where I started. We're basically all, because of our muscle tensions, locked in the fight, flight, sympathetic nervous system response. So the knees became locked on, and I could not, so the muscles around the knees had become so short and tight that there was no movement of my breath going through, and it wasn't separating my bones and then dropping them back together. So the breath had gone from my knees. Why did this happen? So there's multiple different things. When we teach our body to push through situations which activate our nervous system into the fight-flight response, we're teaching ourselves to override our survival response, which is so prevalent in the health and well-being and healing industry that people think it's normal. All that does is fill us up with pain-killing and feel-good hormones that allow us to push through, just like if we were going to war. So when I rode, once I'd switched into that fight-flight mode, the adrenaline, the goosebumps, the energy, yep, I'm good to go now, and I kept going, I abused that state. So what should have happened is my body switched into that stage, and then I should have got myself out of the situation that I was in. Okay? Got myself to safety, which was the cafe where the coffee and the food was. But I didn't. It switched into that state, and then I kept riding. Now, riding a bike, we've already put ourselves in a precarious situation. We're teetering on two wheels, speeding around trees and corners, and we are already in a bit of a heightened state that we've learned to be okay with, which calms us to a certain extent. But when I pushed into that state of survival physically, like really physically, because I was hungry, because I was way out the back of nowhere, then it supercharged and locked on that nervous system response. And because then I kept pushing for, like I said, another half an hour, 45 minutes, it became locked. And it was not going to let go, because clearly the danger was big and serious. The problem with this is those muscular tensions that pulled me into the fight-flight nervous system posture to ready me to run and fight, that started filling me with adrenaline, that started filling me with the pain-killing, feel-good hormones, and that started thickening my blood ready for action and injury, and so I didn't bleed out. That then put me in a state, a physical state, when I'm standing up and walking around, where my body is being pulled over. So I'm now locked in a physical, muscular tension state. That means I will fall over if my nervous system doesn't do something to keep me up. And so from that point, it became a perpetually tightening, grinding down spiral. And the only way to fix that was to spend time in safety positions, lying on the ground in supported rest positions, to give my nervous system the information that I was not going to fall over. Because I'd done such a good job of activating this nervous system, and you can start thinking of trauma in this situation, you can get out of that physical trauma lock. Because I'd spent so much time and I was really locked in there, I needed to spend time on the floor. Now, bear in mind, it took me a week to get the breath back into my knees. It took me a couple of years to peel off enough layers of tension to allow the breath, the knees to finally be at the surface and the breath to start moving through them. So I only had a week to get back through it. When we first start this sort of stuff, when I first started this sort of stuff, it was the tension, the layers of tension were the shoulders, the butt, the quads, the gut, the abdominals, the neck, the arms, the underarms, I had to peel through all of these layers before the knees even became relevant. So this is where regulating the nervous system doesn't work. This is where breath work doesn't work. It gives you a high, it makes you feel really great, and it actually does that through the same process of the nervous system going into fight-flight. But it feeds us. It's familiar. So where I was 10 years ago was in a state where that would have been fine because it would have fed the state that I was in. It would have kept pressing the button so I didn't feel myself. Where I was after I went for that bike ride, I knew the only way was to stop, to observe my breath being really, really short, because the restrictions stop the breath being able to move fully through the body, which means it will be short. And time was all I had. That was the only thing I could give myself. So when people come to a session and they go away and they're feeling calm and they're feeling grounded and they've relieved their own pain and they've calmed their own mind, as soon as they walk out the door and they put their shoes on, the hard-soled, the Doc Marten boots, the Birkenstocks, the jandals, the thongs, as soon as they put those back on, exactly what happened to me on the bike happens to them, because they haven't spent enough time in the nervous system response of rest, digest and heal for it to be familiar. So the body immediately reverts back to what's familiar. The nervous system immediately pulls you back to what's familiar. And so in the beginning there is a pendulum. There is a bit of a pendulum swing as you start to rest and then go back to your normal, rest and then go back to your normal. The key is you need to start spending as much time as possible in rest positions that allow your nervous system to feel safe. And they are when you are sleeping, when you are lying down watching TV, when you are lying down reading a book, when you are scrolling on your phone, whatever you are doing which doesn't require you to be standing or sitting, you lie down in supported rest positions and you at least give your body, your nervous system connection with your muscles, a chance to recognize safety. And in the beginning that's as simple as, and it's only available as, not falling over. So I'm watching all of these people who are pulling on tongues while their client or themselves are standing. The one thing that muscle tension does is it lifts us up off the ground. If we pull our tongue away from the ground, we are activating our nervous system into fight-flight, which is going to give us pain-killing hormones that make us feel better. It's going to give us adrenaline, which makes us feel better. What is lost when we have lost our breath through muscle tension, is the weight of our body resting on the ground and then the breath pulsing us. Like when you take a water balloon and you hold it gently by its little tie and you drop it onto the ground and it spreads. So you don't drop it completely, you just let it sit on the ground, you let the weight rest on the ground and it spreads out, and then you pull it back up and it lifts back up again. That is how the breath feels in the body. When you inhale, all of your fluids are pushed down into the skin of your feet, into the skin of the back of your legs and your butt, into the back of your body, the front of your body, when you're lying down, sitting down or standing. That fluid movement lifts your bones away from the earth, but it keeps you very grounded because you are resting heavily. The breath is pushing the fluids down there, lifting the bones. So you are, in effect, stretching out. That is what we have lost. That is why people think they need to pull on tongues. That is why people think they need to do breath work, because we have lost our resting on the ground, which means we need to have muscles contracted to hold us upright and keep us moving around instead of us bouncing and propelling. So people do not know how the nervous system functions. Anyone who has you lying on the ground, anyone who has you with your legs together, anyone who has you standing up to release childhood trauma or ancestral trauma has got no idea how it all works. They know how to get you high. And watching previous clients cocooning themselves in balls with their body completely twisted and gnarled in a fight, flight, stress response hormone state. Watching them put the shoes on their feet that they put on their feet. Listening to them make the statements about me not knowing how the nervous system works while they're the ones in pain, while they're the ones running around seeking a diagnosis. And knowing that they have felt their own comfort, that they have created their own comfort and enjoyed better mental stability, better emotional flow, more comfortable physical states, clearer spirit, and knowing that they do not correlate what they have felt in the sessions with me to that result. It's astounding, but it confirms how far from naturally functioning we all are, how disconnected from our bodies we are, and how desperate for a high we all are. And it's a high that's within us. It's not a high that we go out and seek or take. It's literally the adrenaline and the hormones and chemicals that go along with the fight-flight nervous system response. Because when they run out, when the button stops getting pressed on those, we can feel ourselves. And it's uncomfortable. It is deeply uncomfortable. And you have to feel that, and you have to be okay with it. Because otherwise you will not stop doing what you are doing, which is contributing and compounding and perpetuating that cycle. You can do all the mental work in the world, you can do all the different techniques, you can do all the different tapping and poking and pulling and twisting of your tongue. It will run out.
I hope you're feeling a bit clearer about how everything integrates and why we really have to stop separating and isolating and focusing on specific areas that are mental or emotional or energetic, because it all comes back to the body and the body never lies. And so if we learn to feel our own body and we learn to unravel and improve the flow within our own body, all our energetics come on board. They also start to flow stronger, with greater sensitivity, but with greater strength to deal with what we feel. The first stage is rest, as I mentioned, and if you are wanting to improve your rest, then click on the link, gain your 1 month access to the rest online library, the guided rest online library. It has multiple files for different positions that people would like to sleep in, and it has audio files that you can put on so that you can keep your focus a bit easier, because it's very difficult to keep our focus on ourselves when we are in this world where we are taught to focus outside ourselves. So that's also got linked to it a 30-minute one-on-one Zoom virtual session with me, so we can set your video up in your house. And my dog is just helping itself to things that are on the bench, which it shouldn't be doing. It's a puppy though. So we can set yourself up in your house, and I can help you refine what you're doing so that you can get the ultimate rest, even if you don't sleep. And that's the key. We have to interrupt this cycle, and you have to at least feel rested, even if you're not going to sleep. And then we start there and we expand from that point. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to sharing the next forest ramble with you. I hope you're feeling a bit clearer about how everything integrates and why we really have to stop separating and isolating and focusing on specific areas that are mental or emotional or energetic, because it all comes back to the body and the body never lies. And so if we learn to feel our own body and we learn to unravel and improve the flow within our own body, all our energetics come on board. They also start to flow stronger, with greater sensitivity, but with greater strength to deal with what we feel. The first stage is rest, as I mentioned, and if you are wanting to improve your rest, then click on the link, gain your 1 month access to the rest online library, the guided rest online library. It has multiple files for different positions that people would like to sleep in, and it has audio files that you